whole business community mobilized. If we can get everybody who's got an office below 59th Street to leave that office and go above 110th Street, or over the Triborough Bridge into the Bronx, over the Williamsburg Bridge into the Queens in Brooklyn, and adopt a school or build a Boys and Girls Club. A lot of this is going on. When we started America's Promise 13 years ago, there were 1,500 Boys and Girls Clubs. Now there are over 4,000, close to 4,500. So there's been enormous growth in these kinds of facilities, but we need more of them. After-school programs, stay-in-school programs, longer school years. All of these things are necessary to give our kids a sense of tribal belonging, to put them in the presence of successful adults who care about them. Otherwise, they're going to go in the street and find unsuccessful adults who don't give a darn about them.
How do we organize this on a national scale? Because Target, it's great that Target's giving money. It's great that State Farm, Facebook, they're helping in different ways, and that is critical. But do we need...
That's what we're trying to do.
That's what we do at America's Promise.
Organizing it all.
America's Promise Alliance has over 400 partners, all of us working towards the same goal of cutting in half the high school dropout rate. We work with the mayors of the country, the governors, the Chamber of Commerce is a partner of ours, and we have these meetings and talking. Gallup is a partner of ours, and they poll young people to see what their needs are and what they are thinking. And they bring it back to these people. The first day we announced that, this partnership with Gallup, there were 6 state superintendents there. Gallup had already been into their communities, and they were having meetings around in various places in the room to say, this is what we found out. And then we come together periodically to talk about, all right, this is what you found out, this is what we found out. We bring cities together and people from to talk about best practices. Have you tried this? This is how we are working. This worked out well. And always we keep the young people's voice in it, because they are the ones that it affects the most, and they can give us their feeling. We were having a retreat about what we need to focus on, and one of the sessions was ready for the real world. And everybody's in there talking about it, all of us, just like the people in this room, what young people need. And there was a young man sitting there who was from New York. He is a single father, takes care of his little baby. And he said, wait a minute, whose world are you talking about? Your world and my world are two different things. And so we have to look at what their world is and hear their voice. And this is what we're doing at America's Promise. We have a movement, and it is moving along so rapidly, gathering people as we go, that it is very exciting. And this weekend's talk really shows what the whole nation needs and gives us something to rally around.
So, General, how does Washington help?
Well, I think the last 2 presidents, President Bush and President Obama, have done a tremendous amount of good work with respect to the No Child Left Behind and what is now happening under the leadership of Arne Duncan. But it goes back, every president that I've worked for has had the same approach to education, knowing we got to do more. But now I think the whole country is understanding this and we're getting mobilized. But there's one person we need to spend a little more time talking about, and that's starting to put the heat on our kids. We have to start telling our kids that we have expectations from you. You will not drop out. The school in Denver, I saw a little story on television about this young man who was graduating from high school. It's a charter school run by, it's a parochial school. All 71 graduates were going on to college, and they were interviewing the valedictorian, a Hispanic kid, usual story. And the interviewer said to him, well, why were you successful? How did you make it? And he looked at the camera and he said, I was never, ever, ever given the opportunity to fail. They kept him in play. No matter what he might have done to slip out, he got slapped back into play. By parents, by aunts, by uncles, by coaches, by ministers. You got to keep the kids in play. I was kept in play by an immigrant family. She was kept in play by 2 parents who were both educators, with expectations and a sense of shame if you disappoint the family. The interviewer also asked this young man, well, how does this affect your family? He said, I'm the first one in my family to graduate from high school. And then he paused, and with a little emotion in his face, he said, I have changed the history of my family. And that is deeply moving, and that's what we have to do. We have to change the history of these families. So it's a history of success, it's a history of achievement, and all of us have to help a community come together again. and help our kids. We have to do something about the number of kids who are being born out of partnership. There's no partnership there. Too many grandmothers are raising children, whole generations. Andy in the movie is being raised by his grandmother. He doesn't know who his mother is, and his father died of drugs. This is tragic. And when that happens, we've got to come in and substitute.
And if the general and his wife, Alma, who is the star of this show today, I'll tell you, is not inspiration enough, everyone should go see the movie Waiting for Superman.
Yes.
It's a movie that really does frame this issue, and it will pull you in. And as you said, everybody needs to take responsibility for this in any way they can.
Everybody does. Also, the general touched on something very important. We were asked to write down who our favorite teachers were. And a lot of people at NBC did that, put it up on a wall, and I asked people who their favorite teacher was. And it was never a teacher that let them cut class. It was never a teacher that expected a little less. For me, I had a teacher, the teacher that pushed me the hardest, the dean in college, that told me I was a loser, that I better go back home and start studying because I was going to drop out and be a complete failure, and don't shame me and your parents. That story is retold time and time again. You talk about
I had one of those.
You talk about the drill sergeant. Well, that's the thing at these schools that work. It comes down to expectations. We expect greatness from you. You better not let us down.
If you think, well, we can't worry about that one over there, he's never going to make it anyway, he won't, because you don't expect him to. And kids have a way of living up to what you expect of them. I heard one of my children say one day, the worst punishment we could have was to hear one of my parents say, I'm disappointed in you. They never wanted to hear that. And that's what we have to have in all of our children. And it doesn't take a whole lot. It takes commitment and caring and being there. So that kids know somebody's got my back.
You know,
and then I can go forward.
We need to wrap this up. We want to thank you all for being with us. Before we came out, our producer had said, let's talk education. And then in the last 5 minutes, talk to the general about whether it's Afghanistan or the economy or what's happening. There is no other issue more important. No. There's no other issue I'd rather talk to you about than this issue. That's right, Chris. We threw our AP right under the bus there. But seriously, this is a remarkable time. When it comes, we have an opportunity to transform this country in a way we haven't in such a long time, General.
Well, the good news is that NBC is committed to this, and hundreds of organizations across the country are committed to this. So the movie is terrific, and it focuses our attention, but there ain't no Superman coming. We are Superman. We better do it. Supermen and Superwomen. We have got to do it.
One quotation that I like to leave people with when I've talked about what children need and where we need to go. I'm told that the Maasai people, when they greet each other, their greeting is, and how are the children? This we need to say every day, and how are the children?
All right.
Alma Powell.
Thank you so much.
General Powell.
Thank you. Great to see you as always. Thank you so much for being here.